Good evening, fellow beings of the universe. Welcome to Non-Duality with Lisa Cairns. So, I forgot my drink. God, I came on live and I forgot my drink. Well, when I start meditation, I'll go and get it. So welcome. If this is the first time on live stream, I'm going to tell you how it works. And if you're watching on YouTube later, then you will also know, if you want to go and watch me live, how it works. So first of all, I do these talks every Sunday at 6 p.m. French time, and everyone is welcome to join. And the way you join is through going to my YouTube page, and you can subscribe to my YouTube page. It no longer sends out email notifications, but I think it sends out some notifications on your dashboard if you're signed up to that. You can also go to my my website, and on streaming, I think it's called, you can also watch it in there as well. It's embedded into my website. So those are two places you can watch it. And let me tell you how the evening progresses and works. I start at 6 p.m. with going live, and then for about 10 minutes I put on this music and coming soon while people join. And then about 10 past 6 I open it up and I explain how everything works, and I then do a meditation till about 6:30 or 20 to 7. And then at 20 to 7 I do the introduction, and at about 7 o'clock I do questions and answers to 8 o'clock. So yes, that is how it goes. Very simple. If you want to join any events that I'm doing, I'm not doing any because we're all locked in, and that's that. I might be doing one in the summer, maybe September, in France, but it's all loose because no one knows what's going to happen. Yes. Anything else? You can sign up for sessions with me on my website. I do sessions, but I normally book out 2 or 3 months in advance. You can be put on the waiting list, but it's highly unlikely that you will get a session from the waiting list. It's possible, but often I don't get so many cancellations. Normally if I get a cancellation, they do it at the very last moment. They just don't show up for the session, and then it's too late to add someone in. So it's very rare someone cancels in advance. Yes. So that's that. You can ask questions through Skype. My Skype address is lisacairns12. And if you want to call in, then please make sure you've got a headset with a microphone and good internet connection. Please. And that is all. I'm just going to quickly grab my drink. I just left it in the other room, and then I shall describe the meditation practices. Okay. So oh, how long's that been going? Sorry, guys. That's a confuddle. One of my other videos I started playing. It's a confuddle. Yeah. So yes. What was I saying? I get my drink. I do the meditation. So meditation sounds really serious and really like you are doing something and you're going to meditate and you're going to become free. Whereas that's way too complicated and that's not really how it works. Meditation, the goal of meditation isn't to become free. So you don't meditate to become free. That's the illusion. Meditation is good for the body-mind and it's good for stress levels, but it's not going to liberate you. It's not going to get you to beyond self because it's all within the self. But it's such a great way to become settled. And I feel like when the person is more settled and it's not getting lost in so much a big emotional drama or detachment, so as it becomes more settled and grounded in itself, then there's a bigger possibility to speak about non-duality. The more uncomfortable the separate self is, the more it seeks. And sometimes that can work. Sometimes abundance of suffering and lots of seeking can just suddenly spontaneously collapse. But most of the time it's the person relaxes more and more, and then something else is experienced. As the seeking diminishes, then something else can be heard. So we meditate just to relax the body-mind mechanism. However, if you're new to meditation, it won't feel relaxing. That's the biggest illusion. You're not going to go there and suddenly be like hum, 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 and have blissful states. Normally when you first start meditating, it's really uncomfortable. It's like if you had like a fast flowing river and then you decided to put a big massive dam or lots of wood to stop the water flowing. It's like the water would hit really aggressively against that dam and maybe even go over the top of it because it's got momentum to it. And that's the same as the mind. The thinking mind has this volition and it's going in a certain direction. It's got its patterns and its ways of behaving. And then when you meditate and you sit still, it feels really uncomfortable because you're no longer doing that. So you've got all your patterns of distracting, of browsing the internet, of watching TV, of eating, of arguing or making love or doing things with people. And then when you begin to meditate, all that stuff can begin to become present and obvious, and it actually feels really uncomfortable. So it's the opposite to what you think. You don't sit and then suddenly de-stress. It's getting used to the discomfort, and through getting used to the discomfort, then in your daily life you'll stop always having to fill all the gaps. Like normally most people are filling all their time with doing things, or they're depressed and they're laying in bed, but they're most probably still on the internet and like still thinking rapidly. But most of the time it's like do, I must do, and being really scared of any gaps, of any pauses. Their relaxation is watching TV. So meditation is stopping that flow. And so there's going to be backlash from it. And for some people, meditation isn't suitable. Some people, things more like yoga is better because it's a different setup, or the mind is too strong, different reasons. So my meditation teachers always used to say, you know, just presenting yourself is enough. Just sitting there and doing meditation is enough. It's not about having these blissful states and satoris and enlightenment experiences. Just presenting yourself is doing it. You're stopping that momentum of go, go, go. We've always got to do something, and you're becoming more comfortable with just sitting, with just being by yourself and not doing anything. And that is deeply relaxing in the end, to be comfortable not doing anything. It's what all other animals can do. They can just kind of sit there and be, whereas humans are like, oh, zzz, zzz, zzz. I have to be? What do I have to be? I have to be something. I'm just going to open the window. Okay, and it opens like that. So, yes, so that is the goal of meditation. So there's different meditations that I recommend, but no, this is a description of something that can happen. It's not a prescription, because who is doing the meditation? The assumption is that there's someone inside your body doing the meditation, but that's a lie. There's nobody inside your body doing the meditation. There is simply life happening, and an impulse arises to do it. I speak about it and an impulse arises, but that doesn't belong to a separate entity. It belongs to life. It's life meditating. The illusion of you is that, an illusion, a mirage, a fantasy. I did it, quickly trying to catch up. I did it, me. I'm guilty. I'm the best. I'm this, I'm that. I'm this, I'm that. I have the glasses on. Yes. So the different meditations that I recommend is, number one, the mindfulness of breathing. And this is really simple. All you have to do is count your breath. Every time you breathe in, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh no, you might take that wrong. So every time you breathe in, you count and you go up a number. So you ascend. So 1, you breathe in, and you breathe out. And then 2, you breathe in, you breathe out. Some people might think you have to hold your breath, but no, you just count your breath, you ascend. So every time you breathe in, you ascend another number, all the way up to number 10. And then once you get to number 10, you just come back to number 1. And what this is doing is it's helping you to stay present, to the personal awareness, not to keep moving off and drifting off into thinking. It's a good exercise. Number 2 is moving your attention to I am, or consciousness. So keep moving your attention back to what's happening. So every time it drifts off, it just puts it back into the present moment. And then number 3 is just to sit there and let your mind do whatever it wants to do. Just to sit still and let it happen. And you don't have to do anything. And that is the different exercises that I recommend. They're not the best. They're just the ones I recommend. They're not the worst. They're not anything. They're just ones that I did and I like them and I feel like they're nice to share. Okay, so we meditate for like 15-20 minutes and then I shall do the introduction. Okay, that's enough now. Welcome to live stream. Okay, we do an introduction. I just have to confess that I've made a mistake. Normally I walk Khaleesi before my live stream, and today I didn't. We spent a long time on the beach and I thought it would be okay to do it after my live stream. And she's actually having a tantrum in the background. I don't know if you can hear. She's just pacing and looking at me and then crying. And there's not really much I can do about it. So it's a little bit distracting for me. Unless I just leave you guys for half an hour and go and walk her. My partner doesn't feel confident enough walking her because she's not the easiest of dogs to handle, because she can sometimes fight with other dogs, and I haven't got the right collar with me, because she has a very fat neck and a tiny head, and so the collar slips off very easily. Yeah, I'm so sorry, Khaleesi. I'm sorry. Yeah. I thought because we went on the beach for so long that you could take it, and I would walk you after the stream. And I'm sorry to you guys because it's distracting my attention a little bit. I normally get this right. She's going down. It's like having a baby. Yeah, I won't do that again. She seems to have gone down, thankfully. Thank you, Khaleesi, for settling. My poor angel, I'm sorry that Mama didn't walk you before the stream. So nice, welcome. I'm so happy that she settled. Okay, let's look at the title. It all turns to dust in the end. So what does that mean? It sounds a little bit like Northern Lights, like everything is dust. It all turns to dust in the end. So basically, humans believe they are human doers rather than human beings. And most people spend their life doing, always doing something, always being something. But our name kind of gives it away, human being. I don't know what that's like in other languages, but maybe it's similar. We're not called human doer. I suspect that maybe our bodies only want to work at max 5 hours a day. And that's maybe for everybody. If I look at Khaleesi, or if I look at, I'm not sure if we're meat eaters or vegetarians, we're most probably both. Our teeth aren't that of a meat eater's. But we seem to have eaten meat for many generations. Maybe we are slightly meat eaters, but yeah, who knows what we naturally were meant to be. But if I look at Khaleesi, say, so a dog, they eat and they spend hunting maybe 4 hours at max a day. Depends, I suppose, on when the hunt is. Maybe if they're at wild dogs, they would hunt one day and use a lot more exercise and sleep. But I know from living with Khaleesi, she's only awake about 4 hours a day. Maybe a bit more than that. But if you own a dog, you'll know that they sleep a lot of the time. And when she is awake, like we do walking, we do exercise, but she also does a lot of like sitting around and watching, or she's not happy, or yeah, just chilling. And I suspect that we overwork because of the ego and the sense of self that has grown. We push ourselves mentally by our idea of what should be, our idea of what we want society or our life to look like. And then we've kind of got into this flow of doing this. I'm sure it's way more complex than that, actually. It's to do with the structure of our society, but most people are expected to work at least 8 hours a day and then have a family and come back and do family stuff, which in a way is work. And relaxing is normally watching TV, which in a way is learning. Storytelling is a way of learning. So it's kind of like humans spend most of their waking hours doing something. Like it's very rarely that you just sit round and look off into the distance, or just lay on the sofa or lay in bed. Not from a depressive point of view, like I can't get out because I'm so exhausted, but just from a relaxed point of view, just appreciating what you have. Like sometimes people pay lots of money to go and, you know, like spend time in a really beautiful place, like on holiday, but then they have to have lots of activities and Wi-Fi to entertain them all the time. Like they have the nice view, but they don't really sit and appreciate it. It's like become another commodity. So we've become these human doers that are always doing something. If we listen to our body would most probably prefer to do less. But we are so conditioned to listen to our mind and our sense of self. And it's not our thoughts, it's actually conditioned from society that you have to be something, that you have to create something, that you have to do something great, that you have to be special, that you have to be happy, that you have to have kids, that you have to go on lots of holidays, that you have to travel and go to museums or parks or have fun or do exquisite things. So this is conditioned and bred into us, and this is what we're told happiness is. It's really ingenious the way capitalism works, as opposed to what we've seen of communism, although I suspect a lot of people that live in communism, it's not really communism. But like it's because it gives the illusion of freedom, because it gives the illusion of choice. And it also gives the illusion that your life is your responsibility. So it's like it sets you up, it puts you in the education system, and then it sets you up and it says, okay, now we've given you all the skills, now you go and make the best of it. And if you're unhappy, it's your fault because we've given you all the skills that you need to deal with life now. And you get to choose to do all these things and you get all the freedom there is. But it's all on you. So if you go bankrupt, or if you end up in prison, or if you aren't happy, it's on you. But we're so heavenly conditioned, we can't see through this illusion of choice. So you go into the supermarket and you've got like 20 toothpastes to pick through, which is kind of crazy because capitalism pays a high price for the illusion of choices of the individual people in the society. So you go into the supermarket and you've got all these different toothpastes, or all these different washing powders, or all these different beauty products, or all these different clothes. So it gives you the feeling like you're choosing and you're in control of your life. So it makes you feel that you're not a slave to a society, you're not like a bee in a hive or an ant in an ant's nest, that you are free and you're independent because you can choose. And then it kind of like plays this game where we compete against each other for what we choose, like who has got the best house, or who has got the nicest furniture, or who is the most successful. And all of it makes people feel free to an extent. But I just put that in abbreviation marks. What's that called? Quotation marks, because it's very elusive, because it's dependent on you earning lots of things called money, lots of coins called money, in order to pay for all of this. So therefore, you have to have a job where you work really hard and you spend all your living hours working at that job in order to achieve all these coins, in order to buy all these things and to have the appearance of choice. If you're really poor, if you have a really bad job and you end up as a server in McDonald's, which is actually what I wanted to be when I was like 5. If you were like a server in McDonald's, which is considered a bad job, which isn't a bad job, it's only a bad job because of you're selling people really unhealthy things, but actually being a server, that's beautiful. Like, why not? But it gives you really little amount of money, so you have very little choice in what you can do in society. So when you go into a supermarket, you're most likely looking for the cheapest option. When you go on holiday, it's the cheapest option if you can afford it. But it still gives you the feeling that you're free. So rather than being in maybe like a communist society, although I've never lived in a communist society, where you're told you have to work at this job, you have to have this car, you have to have these foods, you have the illusion that you are free. And if you are in the poorer realm of things, you just believe, if I was better, if I was more successful, if I was more clever, then I could have more choices. So it's therefore my fault. So I have failed to get more money. And so even though people feel bitter about being poor, they kind of don't rebel against the structure of the society. They kind of take it, especially in Western societies where poverty is not nice, but it tends to be that you can, even if you're really poor and you can't work, you can still have some form of home and food. You're not just left on the streets, although sometimes that is the case. But most of the time, the government offers you some sort of safety net. So capitalism is super interesting in the way it works, because it convinces everyone to work, but it makes everybody feel that it's their choice to work, that they're actually choosing to work. But actually they're in this kind of like cult. They're in this illusion of what they've been taught and what they've been brought up in. So often when people like get to 20 or 30s, they have like mental breakdowns about it, because it's like too much pressure on the person. And this is often when people get into spirituality. Like I got into spirituality. I was actually having mental breakdowns before I even got to career, because I had some difficulties in my childhood. So mentally I was very unbalanced. Which actually was fortunate, because if I hadn't been, I wouldn't have got to this subject. I notice now my friends are beginning to get into this subject, but it's more because they've got to the point in life where it's too stressful. Whereas I didn't exactly find it stressful. I was just emotionally traumatized by the time I left home. So obviously I was naturally drawn to this. So our society gives us the appearance of freedom, but it's a con. It really is a con. It's the same as communism, just set up differently. And it's maybe, I don't think communism is right either, because I think if the leaders, whatever society you have, if the leaders are in illusion, then it's just going to go back to this power game. And I don't know communism, I've not lived in communism, and I don't think what they acted out, it was communism. Like, I don't think that's right either. I think that creativity should be supported, and in communism, maybe it's not supported so much. But in capitalist society, it puts so much stress on the individual, because it makes this individual really focus on the idea of free will and the idea that your happiness is your responsibility by what you choose. And then when the child grows up and gets to 20 or 30s, they begin to have all these meltdowns, because they're afraid of what they choose because it holds too much responsibility, and they begin to feel depressed, but they can't really work out why. It's also, depression is often happening when your solar plexus is out of balance, and solar plexus is often about choice, like what I choose or what I don't choose. So it has this this element of, I can do it, I can make it when it's in the positive, and when it's in the negative, I can't make it, nothing will work out, life is pointless, that type of narrative. So capitalism is really a con. Capitalism works for is people that are very intelligent, but not all intelligent people can harness their intelligence. Their intelligence sometimes becomes a disability. So people that are very intelligent, and also people that can cut off from their body and what they feel and push through that. So people that are more desensitized, so they can, work all these hours and their body can take it. So their body can take high levels of stress. But that is not the ideal. But our society sells that as if it's the ideal. Like the person that can work 17 hours days, that can have kids, that can work a full-time job, that can have lots of friendships, that can have a big social life, can do all these things. And there's no rest in that. It's just so intense. And to me, I think that's bound to create illness in a society and lots of suffering. In a communist society, the problem is I feel more than likely what happens is creativity is taken away. So something that we all are naturally as humans is creative. Like that's our skill as opposed to other animals. Like the elephant's skill is its strength and its height. A monkey's skill is ability to climb and also intelligence. But the human's skill is creativity. And so that's the problem, I suspect, with a communist society, is creativity is hindered. Some people say it's hindered because there's too much protection, because people become lazy. And I don't think that's actually the reason why. I think we naturally want to be creative. I think it's to do with psychology and the way we bring people up and educate them. Like if education is taught as play, then people will naturally find their creativity. And also the lack of presence. So realizing the beauty and the gift in the small things, in doing the shopping or planting vegetables or growing vegetables, in doing manual labor. Like most people are deriving their happiness from an idea of themselves. So an idea of themselves being really successful, like a really successful lawyer with a really big car, with a really beautiful view and a really big house, and people that cook for you. And that's not happiness. That is not happiness. Happiness is actually being in contact with the moment, being present to what's actually happening, being yourself, which is this moment. This moment is who you are, and that is your true happiness. And most people have the idea that happiness is a mental image of themselves in the future, achieving all these things. But these things will never satisfy you. It's like an endless bucket that you're trying to fill. It's like, one of those magician's hats where he can put lots of things in there. Like it's like endless. I think there's this really famous Buddhist story about this king, and he wanted to have freedom, and I can't really remember the story actually. I just remember the imagery of it. He wanted to have freedom, and so he said to a sage, "Can I buy freedom from you, or can I get freedom from you?" And the sage is like, "You can't pay for it, but I'm going to give you a hat." Oh no, he doesn't say you can't pay for it. He says, "Can I buy freedom off you?" And the sage is like, "You can't." He doesn't say you can't buy freedom. He says, "Okay, if you can fill my hat, then I will give you freedom, with all your possessions." So the king ends up putting all his possessions in the hat, but he can never feel the hat. And then in the end he has nothing, which is meant to be a metaphor for your essence being nothing. Like when he has nothing, when he's naked and completely vulnerable to this moment, like then he becomes free. But it's not about giving away your possessions. You now don't have to give away your possessions. You can, if you like, go to my website and donate all your money to me. I won't be offended if you do that. Although it is a bit of a strain if you do. Being rich comes with consequences. It comes with karma. But I will take on that karma for the good of the world. In case you're autistic. No, that's actually, oh, forget that. I'm not going to make a autistic joke. Yeah. So, your freedom in this capitalist society is an illusion when you look at freedom through choices and through getting. You are never going to get freedom through an object or through becoming something. It's such a nice story, and it keeps people running and chasing as fast as they can, which reminds me of another Buddhist story, which is my favorite, of Agulamala, but I always get his name wrong, but you just have to follow me and, you know, we'll go with Agulamala, the dyslexic version of an Indian story. So the Buddha, there was an intellect who worked in a university. And for some reason, this intellect went a bit crazy and got it into his head that in order to be free or in order to work something out, he had to go and live in the jungle and kill people and cut off their small fingers. And when he'd got 100 fingers in a necklace around his neck, then he would be free. And when he was at 99, the Buddha decided to walk through the forest. And all the locals were like, you can't walk through the forest, you can't walk through the forest. If you walk through the forest, Agulamala is going to kill you and cut off the little finger. And the Buddha's like, and the Buddha walks through the forest. And sure enough, Agulamala comes after him. And he runs and he runs and he runs, but no matter how much he runs, he cannot catch up with the Buddha. And then finally he's like, Buddha, stop walking so fast, I can't catch up with you. And the Buddha replies, it's not me who's walking too fast, it's you that is going too fast. I am perfectly still. You can't find me in that. Which is really beautiful. Again, that's a metaphor. It's highly unlikely that actually happened. And it's basically that his seeking mind, his suffering mind was going so fast, he couldn't see that his Buddha nature was perfectly still. And he couldn't catch up with the Buddha because you can't catch up with the Buddha in time. The Buddha, who you truly are, Buddha nature, so Buddha means your true nature, is right here. Your Buddha nature is here. Which is beautiful. And if you think about like what our society sells us as success, it's hilarious. Like that we all fall for it. Like that curtains made by a particular designer or triple glazing or specifically decorated room or designer clothes or trainers or bags or living in a particular location, having a particular car, having lots of women or men chasing you, being married to a supermodel or a billionaire or going on really fancy holidays, having lots of kids, privately educating them. Like all these images. And what's really sad about it is that you will only know your success through other people's failings. Because as soon as that really high quality of life becomes the normal for everyone, in order for you to be special, in order for you to have made it, you're going to have to go higher. And then when everyone's made it to there, you're going to have to go higher. So in order for you to find your success in this society, there has to by default be people that have failed, which is so crazy that that's what we're doing, that's what we're telling each other. That success is comparison to your neighbors. Success is a material thing. Like, it really doesn't matter. I remember in going to Greece, like 6 or 7 years ago, and I was with some friends, and we ended up in this town that was so ugly. And we got a hotel booked there for 2 days. And I just remember finding it so funny because it really didn't matter if the town is ugly or beautiful. Like, and like, who cares? Like, in the end, it's all life. Like, when you're in a really beautiful town, you most probably appreciate it maybe 10 or 20 times. But most of the time, what it's about is taking pictures to put onto Instagram or to show your friends. I mean, it's all so crazy. And then it's like, well, why don't we just do the tourism of ugly towns? Like, really ugly places. Let's see if we can do that. Like, that could become the next trend. It really doesn't matter. It's only a view. It's like all about specialness. How special are you? Are you special enough to have this or that? And this takes away our creativity, because to be really creative, to be genuinely creative, is you do it for nothing. You do it just to be creative. And then you give it to life. If it's successful, it belongs to life, and life will make it successful. If it's not meant to be successful, you give it to life and it's not successful. And when you're creating it, even though you have like a general idea about what its use is going to be if you're writing a book that people read it, it's really not the reason why you're writing it. You're writing it because of the joy of creativity in that moment. Like, that's true creativity. And that's creativity coming from God. That's creativity coming from something else, coming from a divine place. Creativity that comes from, I'm doing it to be something, I'm doing it to be successful, is selfish, is small, is contracting. It's like about you growing and you becoming something bigger and better than. And you really don't need to be bigger and better than. When you're bigger and better than, then you have problems of your own, because then other people want to pull you down, because it's an unbalanced system. So then you've got other people that like look up and worship you, but then it's like a needy energy. Like, I have some friends that are famous, and it's disturbing being famous because everybody wants a piece of you. It's not like you imagine it. And then you can't really go out. If you make friends, like, you're not sure what their motive is, what their intention is. And then with money, if you get loads of money, then you have to protect your money from other people. And then people get paranoid about losing that money. Some of the most suffering people that I've come across since teaching are people that are really rich. It's not what you think it is. Like, if we looked at it in the animal world, like hoarding all your nuggets away, like, so in the animal world, I suppose animals do it as well, but what it looks like basically with this idea of money and the idea of becoming really rich or really successful is, it means, like, if you imagine it with squirrels, it means like one squirrel having as many nuts as a whole massive tree, and then the squirrel next to you only has 2 nuts, and then the squirrel down from you only has 3 nuts, and then the squirrel down from you has like, further down, has like 40 nuts. But then what that squirrel's responsibility is to stop the other squirrels trying to steal its nuts. Then it's like always getting paranoid, like, which one's coming for me? It like doesn't venture out because it's like, has to run back and check its nuts. Keeps counting its nuts. Keeps going over it and over it. There's nothing wrong with being rich as long as you have the right attitude. It's the way our society is set up, and I have met rich people that are really free with money, but it's has its dynamics. That is not happiness. It's not happiness having children. Say that's your big dream. Like, it has beautiful moments to it. Maybe you think, oh, now I've got this built-in family, so I'll never be alone again. But it's not, that's not your savior, because they'll have difficulties. Maybe they grow up and they have severe depression. Maybe they're really happy and joyous, but it's got to have a life of its own. If your happiness and your company, your satisfaction is based on that, it's a life of suffering. You have to know and find the happiness of this moment. All other ego identities will hurt you. So all other versions of yourself will hurt you. And what it does when you have all these ideas that creating something, that being creative or making lots of money makes you free, what it will do is it will make all activities too important. It will put too much stress and pressure on it. So you'll stop enjoying it for what it is. And it will all become about the future, a mental concept of something in the future. This is something you guys can link that up to. And you get further and further away from home, which is this present moment. So of course this present moment is home because it's what you always have. So what I define as home is, and freedom and happiness is what's always with you. So your essence, Ramesh Balsakar, my teacher, used to say, your birthright is freedom. So your essence is freedom. That's the same of what Ramana Maharshi says, Nisargadatta Maharaj, Buddhist, the Buddha, the Vedas, all of it implies, even Jesus Christ implies that freedom, your birthright, your home, is in you, is you. God is in you, the divine is in you. And it's in what is always here. And this moment is what's always here. What is also always here is consciousness and beingness. So these three elements, which aren't separate from themselves, are what's always here. So your whole life you've always had consciousness, this looking, this emptiness. You've always had this moment, even though in this moment the scenery changes, the people change, the sounds change, you always are here. And then you've always had this sense of existence. No matter what you've done, you've had those three things. You as a person, you as the idea of yourself comes and goes. Your idea of yourself as rich, as young, as middle-aged, as old, that comes and goes. Your idea of yourself as a good person, a bad person, a right person, a guilty person, a naughty person, a strong person, a handsome person, an ugly person, all of that is coming and going all the time. But what remains is consciousness, beingness, and this moment, and that's who you are, and that's your freedom. When you're identified with an illusion, so when you're identified with the story of yourself, of somebody that has to be successful, then you cut off from this present moment and you live in imagination. So you're living through this fog of imagination of what I have to be, and always dreaming about something else than what is. Then what happens is your imagination is setting off your emotional body. So if your dream of what you want to be, someone really successful, isn't happening, then your imagination is saying to you, I've not made it yet, I've not made it, I'm bad. And then it's setting off your emotional body and your chakras and putting them in painful, depressive, angry, violent states of being. So then the next thing that happens is you numb out your body. You stop feeling what's below your neck. And you're just residing in this imagination of yourself. And then this makes the body very tense and very stressed. So often what happens when waking up is you begin to see the illusion mentally, and then you begin to undo that and become more present to the body and more present to what you're feeling, and more present to what's actually happening rather than what you imagine is happening. And then as that begins to break down, so the next level beyond that, you begin to really recognize that there's three things that are always present that aren't things and that aren't separate. It's consciousness, this moment, and beingness. You've always had that, and this is home. This is absolute love. It's love beyond your wildest dreams. It's total love. It's what you came from when you were born and what you will dissolve back into when you die, and it's what everyone is made up from. So it's now love speaking to love. The person, it goes through a filter of a person that's rejecting love, but behind that person is love. It's this vibrant presence that's ecstatic to express itself in all these different forms. Knowing that element of yourself and then living the human life, I think you come to a more peaceful and balanced life on the human level. Remembering who you truly are, and that being seen or appearing in the human, so remembering your divine aspect that you are love, and then that expanding the human, you become a more peaceful and balanced and happy human. So that integrating into the human. But that integration is like an endless process. Everything in this life is an endless process, if you haven't realized. Everything is always evolving. But the end of suffering is to really know who you are beyond all forms. It's not in getting money, fame, success, children, wow, all these things. I assure you. I've lived so many different lives in this life. So many different lives. And currently in the lockdown, I have been in a very small apartment. It's really beautiful, but it's a small apartment. It's not by the beach. I can't complain. But it's a small apartment, and it's also, lots of people around. And because I'm an empath, like living in cities or not living in nature is a little bit more stressful on my system. It's much easier for my system when I have nature surrounding me. So I'm not in favorable circumstances, but that doesn't take away your happiness. I assure you, I would feel exactly the same. My body might be a little less stressed, not stressed. My body gets tired, from not being in nature. So it's a little more stressful on my body living in the city. But it's not my unhappiness. I could live in a mansion, I would feel the same. My body would just be more in flow if it was in nature. But that's irrelevant, that part. It's exactly the same. A mansion or this small apartment, it's your same sense of being. If you're in suffering, you can be in the mansion and you can be in the apartment, and it will be the same. You'll just get a high when you first move into the apartment, and then your natural way of being will come back, and then you'll start feeling not good enough again, or like this isn't enough. It's not that. Okay. I have spoken a lot. I don't even know if there's still people there. There is. There is still people here. So, the title of it is In the End It All Comes to Dust. So you build all this life and you make this whole identity of yourself. You create all these things that society has told you. If you do this, you'll be happy. You create Trump towers, but then in the end, it all comes to dust. It's like those dandelion thistles. You blow them and they all disappear into the wind. So it's like when you die, it's all dust. It's gone, it's gone, it's gone. And in a way, your death is every moment. So in a way, everything you have doesn't really exist. So all these things that you think are important, in the end, it all turns to dust. Like you look from a bigger perspective and none of it matters. The problems you're having in our society, living in a big or small apartment, having curtains which are embroidered from Italy, or a Tibetan monk blessing you from Tibet. All of it comes to dust. It really doesn't matter. And that is not depressing. It's beautiful, because what it means is that you have that childlike wonder, that childlike freedom of this moment. As children, like you played your games and you made up these little worlds, and in the end it all fell back into itself. It all really didn't matter. Like all those mandalas that they make out of sand, and then the wind comes and the mandala is gone. They spent hours and hours, days making these mandalas, and then it's all brushed away. Really doesn't matter. You don't have to be anything. And when you don't get depressed about that, when you don't see that as depressing, you see it as such a relief. It's only depressing because you're living in the solar plexus energy. You're living in this energy that I have to be something. And then when you say it all comes to dust, then the solar plexus goes to the opposite and goes, I'm hopeless, I'm nothing, I don't matter. And it's not talking in that world, it's talking in the bigger perspective. So it's not saying to you you're pointless or that you'll turn to dust on the human, like on the solar plexus level. It's talking about it on the greater scheme of things. But life is so impersonal, and we take it all so personally. So if you take the title negatively, it's only because you're living in your solar plexus energy of I have to be something. And if I'm not something, then life is pointless and meaningless and I want to die. You don't have to be something. You are the most divine expression of love right now. As you are, you're perfect in every single way. Nice. Okay, we go to questions. The end of the rant. The rant, rant, rant. The rant, rant, rant. You could say rant, or you could say love expressing itself. The end of the rant, I can say jokingly on the human level, and then you could say that the end of love's speech. Oh, that sounds really naff. Okay, we go to questions. So if you'd like to call in, I will take preference to callers. Make sure you've got a headset with a microphone, and can you just put in Skype, call me, and then don't put anything afterwards so I can see it in the chat. Hi Gerald, hi Lisa, I so appreciate you, thank you. Oh, thanks Gerald, it's beautiful to hear. Although guess what? It's not the reason I do this, for your appreciation. I do it because it's like the childlike wonder of playing. You know how kids play for nothing? It's like the expression of it is enough in this moment. But I appreciate that, and I appreciate your words. This was my New Year's I can't really read it. It says something about being beautiful at the end, that you have beauty, something. In German means, to everyone who I have insulted, hurt or disappointed this last year, that has had its reason. Oh, okay. It doesn't have anything about beautiful in it. Just for a deep-rooted laugh, love, Bernard. To everyone who I have insulted, hurt or disappointed this last year, this will have had its reason. Okay. Sweet. Yes, it will have had its reason, which is no reason. Hey, Isabel. Lovely, Lisa. I truly love you. Thanks, Isabel. Hi, Pauline. I truly love you too, Isabel. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Khaleesi. Beautiful talk last week. Really helping. Thank you for recording and making it seeable after the talk. I'm not always on Sundays. Oh, nice. Yeah, with pleasure, Pauline. Hey, Thomas. Hi, Carmela. Thank you for these talks. They are always so helpful. Love, big hug to you. Thanks, Carmela. Hi. I've forgotten your name, how to say it. Please call me. Yes, I will, but I can't remember how to. Yes, I'm going to call you. Say your name. Antonia. No. Anastasia. Oh, I've forgotten. Okay, I'm going to call you. Antonia. Hopefully you know I'm going to call you and it's not too shocking. Hello. Hang on a second. I just call you back. I just got my settings wrong. 1 second. Okay. Hey. Hello.
Hello. I'm so happy you called me. That's amazing.
Nice. Can I just get you to turn your video off so I can have the internet for my streaming?
Yes. Do I have to switch off something?
Yeah, the video.
Yes. I'm sorry. One moment.
That's okay.
Yes.
Danke.
Yes. Great.
Thank you. Well, how do you say your name again? I've forgotten.
Antonina.
Sorry?
Antonina.
Antonina. Okay, Antonina. Nice. Nice. Yeah, thank you for saying that. And I'm so happy that you're willing to put yourself out there and speak to me online. It's quite intensive for someone to do.
I'm so grateful to you. I'm listening to you maybe for 7 years already.
Wow.
And
nice.
yes, we've got the call maybe 4 years ago. I still remember that because it impacted me so much that maybe 1 month after that I was feeling like full of energy and motivated and so on. So thank you so much.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah,
that was me. I wrote you an email that I want to translate your book into Russian.
Oh, yeah,
And
you did.
I'm so happy. It was me.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for responding me. And really, it was very cool to have the email from you.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah, that was such a sweet offer. I'm so grateful for the offer. That's very sweet.
I read your book and it was so amazing, the experience, and that I read your story. It was very important for me because I've got panic attacks in September last year, and that pushed me to meditate, to do that every day, do yoga,
nice.
and so on. And I've got the question. I want to explain it so you can understand me. I am listening maybe for 8 years, satsangs, retreats, and read all these books about that. And during my meditation, I've got the experience that I can observe all the feelings in my body, all the thoughts that comes and goes, and I can do that during the day. And it's easy. And I feel that I'm silent and that I'm not in my body, but I don't feel myself in anywhere else. I can't tell what place is it in which I am. And but still I can't understand who am I, there is something, I know that there is something deeper, but I can't move on. It's like knocking at the door and nobody is answering. I don't see anybody in my body. I don't see that there is a person and so on. I see all the thoughts and the sounds and the movements and other people and other world, but I don't feel that I'm the one with this world.
Yeah. It's really grace, that part. of the non-duality teaching, of when that's seen. And because it's not a personal seeing, so no matter what you do, you can't force that to be seen. And you're not doing anything wrong if it's seen or if it's not seen. When life is willing to reveal itself, it will reveal itself. Like what you can do on the human level, seemingly, even though in the end there isn't a human doing, but it appears that way, is you can do things like meditating and like doing yoga classes, retreats, and calming down the separate self. But when it is seen is totally God's will. You can't force that, because it's a shift from being the dream to the dreamer. So it's like in your dream at night, when you're dreaming, you're totally convinced that you are this person running around in the dream, and that you as the person, say if you're dreaming about waking up, have got to find waking up. And when in that dream it is realized that you're actually the dreamer of the dream, is totally down to something beyond the character. That the character can't do that. The character can maybe go and meet gurus and find all this information and become really still, but still, when that's realized, it's down to something beyond the character.
So I just have to continue doing all this and just relax, yes, and let it go. Let it be, yes.
And because also, the person that feels, the person that you feel like that you are isn't who you are. So even when the person says, I just have to let it go and do what I'm doing, and then when it comes, that's never actually who you are. That's not who's listening to my words now. The person which is saying, I need to let it go, and then one day it will happen, I just do my things, that is like a programmed response which is happening, which my words are being filtered through, but it's not actually who's listening to the sound of my voice. That person which is saying that can't actually listen. That which is conscious of my voice is beyond all personal structures. So it's beyond the one that says, I want to get enlightened or I don't want to get enlightened. It's here, it's conscious, but it's not a thing.
I feel that.
Yeah. So there is some part of you that knows it.
Words.
Yeah. Like it just, there is a part of you that knows it. It's just that it quickly gets covered up again by the person looking. So that recognition, it's like you watch the videos and there's some recognition that's happening beyond you.
No, I feel there is no thought at all. Silence, total silence.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It is wonderful, and that's the element that's been forgotten in the human world. In the human world, the person, the character is so fixated on getting and doing and being that it's forgotten that this whole world, or this movement, is playing out from silence and from stillness. So the other half of the coin is this silence and stillness. In order for all of this to play out, there has to be that silence and stillness. Like if you tried to play a film on another film, it would just be chaos. Like in order for a film to be played in the cinema, it has to be played on a still screen. And it's the same in this world. And that still screen is the consciousness, which is watching. It's who you are. And that screen is also love.
Do I have to feel like everything is one and so on, but or it's only love? No.
In a way, the person can never feel that because the person doesn't exist. So again, that's a question in the world of movement. And the world of movement is always changing. So love comes and goes, peace comes and goes, joy comes and goes. It's seeing something that's deeper than that and realizing that the person will never be in bliss, a state of bliss forever, or a person will never be in a state of love forever, or a state of enlightenment forever. The person is a movement. the enlightenment, the stillness, the bliss that you're looking for is in what's always here. So you will never have the love, you will never have the bliss. It's deeper than that.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Oh,
I get so blissed out speaking about this that I forget if it's making sense or not, like, because it's so beautiful. Like it trails off and disappears into that silence.
So this person can never be fulfilled, can never be satisfied, right? Because there will be some other things that comes and goes, and there will be always mess in that, right?
But there's a part of you. Sorry?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I didn't hear what you said.
I mean that if I will try to, if I see from the person's view, so I will always be looking after something more, right? After some experiences and so on.
So what is it that's there that's beyond the person? What is always here that's beyond the person, that's beyond all movement?
I've got the experience 2 days before that I was working and at the moment I understood that I am silent always. Like when I'm asking somebody or saying anything else, I'm always silent. Like I never said anything. You know.
Yeah.
It's so strong that I was like, oh, will I say something in future at all, or I will stay silent for all the years till I die?
Yeah. Your essence is absolute silence and stillness and emptiness. And it's really miraculous because everything is appearing from that, because your essence is also not separate from the world. So everything is that stillness. Everything's appearing from that stillness and that silence and that emptiness. Everything is that. So it's kind of internally it's all coming from no place, from emptiness, and externally it is as well. And this is so beautiful. This is where the freedom really comes into it, because we always see this world as something that's against us rather than something that is a part of us. Like it's always we're in relationship to the world. Whereas when you really recognize you're that silence and your stillness, you see that the whole world is that. The whole world is that essence. And so you're never really in competition with the world. The human form, in a way, is like the human form has to eat and do things in order to survive. But that which never leaves you, that which never comes and goes, is free of all of that. It's just there, watching, experiencing, being all these different forms.
I feel that I do have to meditate 24 hours per day. Not that I do have, but that I am doing that. You know?
Yeah.
Because I can't stop doing that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. When I was a practicing Buddhist, we used to do this nighttime meditation. It was so hardcore. You had to like stay up all night and meditate. So we'd start at like 10 in the evening and we'd go on till 6 in the morning. And it was so hard to do, like to not fall asleep. I began to invent all these amazing techniques of managing to fall asleep while sitting up and staying in meditation posture. Yeah, you begin to get really trippy when you meditate without sleeping. Yeah,
I know that. I work at night right now because one day work in the day, then at night, and I try to meditate during my work. When you want to sleep, it's sometimes awful because you're almost sleeping then meditating. Yeah, that is great. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much that you are doing all these talks all these years and that you are helping people.
Oh, nice. With pleasure. It's really lovely to speak with you. Yeah, send you lots of love.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Ah, nice. So if you want to speak on the telephone, on Skype, then please just put call me. I can see a call me. I will take the call me. Call me's get preference. Yes, it's to Marnix. Marnix. And remember, we've spoken before from Holland.
Hi there.
Hello, hey.
Hello. Thank you for
Hi.
taking the call.
With pleasure.
I just wanted to say that your talk really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And it was funny when you talked about how society sets up a certain system of always being busy.
Yeah.
It reminds me, 7 years ago, I think, I went on a 10-day Vipassana silent retreat.
Yeah.
And there was this incessant voice in my head saying, okay, let's go home, meditate for 2 hours and work 10 hours so you actually get something done. And I realized, like, this is not just a voice in my head, this is in the entire society.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
how it is in France or the UK, but it used to be normal when you meet someone, it's like, how are you doing? It's like, yeah, busy, as if that's the way to say, yes, I'm
good,
I'm worthy or something. Like, I'm not just a leech to society, I'm actually doing something.
Yeah, totally.
So I was in a privileged position because I was working for myself to decide, like, okay, I have to deal with this.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, for 2 weeks straight, I'm just gonna sit on my couch and maybe walk in the park. And every time I have the desire to do something, I'll just sit with that instead of actually acting on it.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks turned into a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Luckily, I live next to the park, so that's mostly where I spend. And it was funny, it was this certain moment when early morning, and I didn't have any income. So at a certain moment, I was really like, am I going to pay rent this month? And I was walking in the morning. There was this bench with a few guys who were drinking beer, clearly already drunk, at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I was just completely happy, okay with life. And this one guy, he looks at me and he says, "You must be filthy rich." that was his only conclusion, like why someone could be that completely relaxed and happy in life. And I thought it was very fitting to see how the perception of society is.
Totally. Yeah, you could only be like that. You could only be that relaxed if you're totally stinking rich.
Yeah, that's the only option.
Funny.
So and then later on in the talk, you talked about the plexus, the solar plexus, and how I think the human mind or the entire system takes on the message of. Well, I listened the last year quite a lot to Tony Parsons and Jim Newman, and it also to Paul Morgan Summers. And there's this, when it resonates and the clarity is there, there's so clear that this is the truth, and there's nothing more to add, right? There's just this.
Yeah, just this. Yeah.
But when the person comes back, or when the brain starts to make sense of it, it incorporates it into its own system. And then I actually felt what you were saying, this plexus, kind of like hopelessness, giving up, like, what's the use?
Yeah.
Realizing also through talks with you, I had one other call where you said like, yeah, this is just its way of dealing with it, but it can't see it in the clarity.
I suspect that like with Tony's talks, like, so with what happened about sitting on your sofa and really giving up, there was still maybe a part of you that felt like you were doing that in order to advance yourself spiritually. And then when you listen to Tony's talks, it really hammers that voice in you, that last remaining voice that still wants to be something. And then the idea of giving up spirituality, or the idea of beginning up being enlightened, when the person comes back, it activates that deep sense of being a failure, of not being something, of people seeing you as a leech, like you say, of like that the solar plexus energy of depression or not being good enough. And it's, Tony used to say, when I used to go and see him, he used to say, if you leave the room like believing or holding on to anything I say, then you've completely missed the point. And I think with like Neo-Advaita, like when people take that personally, then it does create depression. But when you see it for what it is, like what a liberation that we're here right now with nothing. We're not liberated or unliberated. We're not free or unfree. We're just here. Just this, nothing more. Like, and this is all there is. When that's really seen for what it is, it's mystery, it's childlike wonder. When it's taken personally, then it's like, I failed, or I'm not going to make it, or it's hopeless, or there's no point in doing anything.
Yeah, that's very clear, and it's funny how it switches back and forth between this clarity that it's an undeniable truth that this is the case, and then somewhere the thought creeps in again. So it's in my story, there was a certain moment when I decided, like, okay, well, when the mind is there and the belief of being someone will do something to not fall in that trap of nihilism or something like that.
And it's all around the doership. It all belongs to the solar plexus and that area of I've got to do to be, and it's total lie.
Yeah, and also you talked about creativity purely for the joy of it, or something like that. And that's reminded me of this beautiful talk by Alan Watts, who says to dance pure for the sake of dancing and not to arrive at the end. And it's beautiful.
Alan Watts is great. He's one of these speakers that can just spontaneously do these like amazing monologues, and then you put a bit of music to it and it's like another world. It's like taking or smoking a joint or something. It's really a psychedelic trip. He's really magical like that. So he does it, Alan Watts. There's some other speakers that like manage to do that. Jordan Peterson is another one that can do it. But energetically, I'm not like, I find his energy a bit heavy, but he also can just like give your brain orgasms, like the way he speaks.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think and totally familiar with these kinds of teachings, to give it a word, but it's very on a mental level what he says, but I see so much wisdom coming through him. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, he's not embodied it.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to speak with you. Yeah.
Likewise. All right, that was it. It was just wanted to talk about how what you said resonated with me.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. It was lovely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Hey. Hey, Nick. Clouds of rainbow, or water of rainbow, it's unsure. Hi, Adam. Hi, Lisa. I've been hearing the same message a lot recently, that there is nothing that you can do to reach this freedom, because any of those things that you attempt to do is just seeking, which is the thing that takes you away from the freedom that you are truly seeking. It seems such a bind. How do you drop this seeking? That's like another thing to do, you to drop the seeking. To me, it's something that begins to happen as it's realized that seeking doesn't give you happiness. So listening to these talks and saying to yourself, I've got to stop seeking, it will just make you depressed. The way that seeking begins to stop is seeing that freedom comes from this moment as opposed to something in time. So this moment right here, bum on seat, back resting against the chair, the warmth of your hands held together, the sound of my voice, this is all you ever looked for. So this is how seeking stops, but it's not personal volition. Like, you can't force that. While you're sitting here trying to force it, you're more than likely become uncomfortable. Like, I need to do something to get somewhere. So basically, seeking stops when the true nature is realized of love. And that's not a personal volition. But yet there seems to be a story of a person going through all these processes, all these deconditionings and unpicking and reading and listening. So it doesn't mean don't do it. Well, the person's got seeking inside of them. It's like, in a way, seek. I think it was Ramesh that used to say, you seek under every rock and then eventually it'll burn itself out. I think he used to say that, like, you have to maybe become the multimillionaire to see that it's not in that. Or become really versed at all the spiritual practices. It's always in what you started with and what you'll leave this life with. So what is always here that never leaves you? Thanks, Adam. And if you're having depression and problem with the solar plexus, so you're feeling a lot of it's pointless or it's hopeless, then you need to work on your solar plexus chakra. So there's books on my website which talk about the solar plexus. Well, they talk about chakras, and in the books they talk about the solar plexus, and there's exercises to be done. So massage it, rub it, chant, yoga, all these different things, breathing exercises. But it's just basically, it feels like it belongs to you. It's like a habit of the brain that's activated the energy in the solar plexus, and then they loop, they go between each other. So your solar plexus goes out of balance, and then your thinking becomes obsessed with doing, or your thinking becomes so obsessed with doing, and then your solar plexus gets out of balance. It's like a loop. They're connected. Normally I find you have to go to the root of it, so you have to balance the chakra rather than like force your mind to stop thinking. Hi Nora, you are on fire this morning. Evening for you. Thank you, dear beautiful soul. I needed to hear these words today. Much love to you, Nora. Nora from Sacramento. Thanks, Nora. It was really helpful, people actually saying like Nora from Sacramento or Dennis from Kentucky, because it gives my mind something to remember. Like, my mind works well with these types of sayings. Maybe that's why originally we started with like our jobs names, so it'd be like Lisa Smith or Darren Butler or I've forgotten all the workers' names, sorry, which implies your work, but a lot of names are based in work, like what we did. And there's Dennis. Hey, Lisa. Hey, dear friend, thank you so much for this talk today. You're a beautiful voice of the divine, your friend in Kentucky. Oh, with pleasure, Dennis, in Kentucky. Okay, so there's another call me. Oh, 2 more calls me. Okay, I'm not sure if I can make it through everyone's questions or calls. So we'll next go to Brian. Yes. Here I come, Brian. Here I come, ready or not.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Brian. Nice to hear from you.
Good to hear from you too.
Are you back in Europe or are you still in America?
No, I'm still in the States right now.
You can't get back in?
Well, I can get back in. It's just like everything's locked down. You can't leave your house. It kind of sounds not that great. Apparently it's snowing, so yeah.
Yeah. Is it warm there where you are in America?
Yeah, it's kind of warm. There's a lot of space and there's a lot of nature.
Yeah.
So I kind of like it, but also I'm here with my mom, so yeah, I've been doing some work with her as well. So that's been good, but it can be too much sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's actually what my question is kind of relating to. I kind of forgot half of it. Let me think for a second.
Yeah, that's okay. Take your time. There is no hurry.
Okay. Except for Khaleesi.
Oh, yeah, no, she's settled down. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was a bit concerned she wasn't. She's never not settled down for a talk, but like that she was going to start barking at me or something like, "Woman, woke me now!"
Yeah, then you'd have to go.
Yeah.
What was it again? Yeah, I could feel during like some of your talks like a lot of energy moving, and I could feel like my mind and like part of me is like trying to control that. And I noticed that like in my day to day as well. So I've been around a lot of people that are like living from conditioned responses. So, it's like reaction, it's lots of mental stuff. And like the way I react is also like, ooh, if I let go of control right now and I'm just present, like this person is going to think I'm weird, or like, I'm just going to sit here silently and not respond to any of what they have to say because it's all like in a way, it's all kind of garbage. And like, I just can't listen to like everything that people have to say. Like sometimes I just fade out, not even like mentally. I'm just like,
Yeah.
so it's like letting go of like dealing with like people that are constantly coming from conditioned responses. And I must on some level be taking that personally, and then reacting also from conditioning. And I'd like to not do that, because then that reinforces my own conditioning, like gets me into trouble. So I'd like to.
Well, I think trouble is part of being in relationship. Like we conflict is part of relationship. Like, enlightened or not enlightened, it's just part of being human. Like if you think about where we've come from, we're kind of these very strange animals, because we've kind of like established a society where we have governments which splits up the land and gives us all pieces of land to live on, and then calls it our property. And we go to these notaries that sign a piece of paper saying that's your piece of land. It kind of keeps us semi-peaceful. Not really peaceful, but semi-peaceful, because we've got these piece of papers that says this is my land and other people can't come on it, and if someone does, then I can call the police. So we're kind of these really interesting animals, whereas like in the wild, like if a stray dog came into another dog's pack, they'd just kill it.
Right.
Maybe they wouldn't kill it if it behaved in a very specific way, but 99% of the time they would kill it. Like a stray dog comes into their pack, they're like, you're a goner. Whereas we've kind of like civilized ourselves to an extent where we tolerate being in these close proximities to people, because we've all got these stamped pieces of paper in which says this is your bit of land and no one else can come in there, and we feel safe enough and we trust enough our society that people aren't going to invade us. And part of maybe what we fear about the breakdown of our society from the current situation that's happening politically is that if everybody loses faith in society, then everyone will begin to have civil wars and war against each other. So it's it's really interesting what we're doing. Like, to be in relationship to humans is going to have conflict, because we're still very primitive, really. It wasn't that long ago, that we couldn't speak, that we lived in caves, that most probably not that long ago, really, in the whole grand scheme of things, that we were chimpanzees. And so our evolution is based in this mammal instinct, and that it's quite an aggressive instinct where we're territorial.
Yeah, and I could see that, because I notice around, like, a lot of the people I'm around, I constantly notice, like, little, like, and maybe it's just me also, but like, there's, like, mini wars happening. There's constantly, like, subtext to a lot of, like, the ways people are, like, interacting also with me, and it gives me lots of anxiety, because, like, I feel like people always want something, or always trying to play a power game, or and maybe that's actually, I don't know, maybe that's me in some way, but
it's like there's levels of it, because it's not like people are trying to play power games all the time, but in the end we are an animal that is moving towards pleasure and away from pain, and that's the way we're set up, liberated or not liberated. And our pleasures are feeling safe, feeling secure, feeling like we can control our environment. Our tendencies is to let in our own pack as opposed to let everybody in, like we have our safe people which we let in, we're not overtly friendly to strangers.
Right.
So like, on the basic level of our conditioning is, to make ourselves safe, and that does include maybe keeping other people out to an extent, or getting other people to help us. So, wanting other people to help, or to help build in a way, we're trying to build our own safety. So forget ego, forget separation. I'm just talking about the natural biological impulses of the human is to survive. And in order to survive, we survive by growing and by not destructing. So if an animal takes off our arm, that's not such a good thing.
Yeah.
If we could grow another arm, we would grow another arm. We could do more things. We could grow 4 arms. Our instinct is to grow and to build and to retain. And it's not inherently bad. That's just the way that we've evolved and the way all animals have evolved, is to grow and to expand. It's kind of the nature of everything. So then you put us all together with egos. So you put us all together. You put humans together, and then you give the humans this idea that that's who they really are, like these egos, these ideas and thoughts. And it becomes complex. But even if you take out the ego and you take out separation, it's complex, because in order to live together, there's got to be communication, misunderstanding, in a way, arguments, in order to find a middle way, compromise, all these complex thoughts and feelings. Then you add in separation, it gets a lot more complex. It's like stirring the brew.
Right.
So and it's super interesting. In a way, everybody is always wanting something, but that isn't evil. So there might be one person that goes in and wants peace in the room. There's another person that goes in and wants people to help them build a house. There's another person that goes in and wants to be appreciated. So everybody has wants when they go into social interactions, otherwise nothing happens. And there's nothing inherently evil about it. It's just the way we're set up. And then the ego gets involved, And the ego or the separation believes that my happiness is dependent on being loved, being at peace with these people,
Right.
the way they respond to me or not. And really the only freedom that you can have in relationships is the detachment from it. It's not necessarily having a peaceful relationship. You can have more peaceful relationships and be with people that are more compatible for you, but there's still going to be problems, because then, you know, say if you're in a romantic relationship, maybe your partner falls in love with someone else, or they get seriously injured, or they you know, they it could be all types. They lose their job, they lose their confidence, they become dependent on you financially. There could be all types of things that happen in your partnership. And so you really, the freedom has to be finding it in something which never comes and goes and which you always are. Otherwise it wouldn't be freedom. And seeing that beyond things, and then letting relationships be as they are, so you can be disturbed by your mother and you can be in pain, and there's another part that is unaffected by that, so that pain and that disturbance can come and go. And then also your behaviors can come and go, because nobody's perfect. Whenever you're in a relationship, you're in dynamics. There's no enlightened person in relationship. There can be somebody that's maybe more evolved, but you always have dynamics as soon as you relate, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, dynamics are always messy.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be a way around that.
And if you're more like free, then maybe you come across in the relationship as more detached, and that will create dynamics in the relationship.
Right.
It's not
with more space.
Yeah. Well, it might create more space, but it might also make the other person incredibly insecure.
Right. Yeah.
This is always dynamics, and there's nobody's out of it. Like, this is one thing I dislike about non-duality, is that you get this guru and people have this idea of the guru is free of all dynamics, but as soon as the guru interacts with the students, there is a dynamic. There is the student that doesn't know, and then the teacher that does know, and that's a dynamic.
Right.
And the beneficial or unbeneficial is unknown. We don't know the future. We just know what's happening in that moment. So there's always dynamics in humans. You have to go beyond that and see what is present. So you're sitting there and your mum wants a reply from you. And the more that that's seen, the more that your feelings will be embraced rather than rejected. And then the more balanced you'll become on the human level.
But like when that happens, like in an interaction, like if I drop into presence or something, like there's something that gets scared of, like letting go of conditioning and how I'm being perceived by the other, or that I'll like go crazy mid interaction, you know? Or just completely lose it, or like, because there's also like instincts, like part of me just like wants to go crazy, like sometimes, you know?
Yeah, I think that comes more from the seeking.
Right.
That's more from, because they do something and then you hate them for doing it. Like, and hate is, like Roger always used to teach me, that hate is seeking. Like that you really believe that they're the doer and they've really done something to you, and that's not in line with the truth. So that's not really dropping into presence. It's like unzipping the bag and letting anything spring out. So that's like the shadow coming up to play, and there's nothing wrong with the shadow coming out. It could get you into trouble, but so
it's just the pain body.
That's the pain. We could say it in that term. It's like the pain body. So that's not really being present. There's something beyond that. There's something that's free beyond that. So that's still within the realms of the story.
Right, so there's a reaction to something someone says, and then unconsciousness of that reaction in the body, and then
wanting to act that out.
Right.
So, and then when you think, if I become really present, that would spring forward, that's not really true. Because presence doesn't hate. It can have anger. It could have upset. Like anger isn't hate. That's a hard thing to define as to what's anger and what's hate, but it's like what you feel.
Right, anger's in the moment and it's gone.
It could be like So say if your mom decided to take away your inheritance and give all the inheritance to your siblings because you didn't help her with something. Like when she tells you that, there could be anger and it feeling unjust. So it could be like maybe even shouting that appears. But the freedom would be that there is just deep freedom behind that. That's a spontaneous reaction coming out of the deep freedom. And the hatred would be this total involvement in it and the belief that she is guilty. Whereas the anger is more just a response that's coming out, and it's conditioned maybe, like so you were saying, as if conditioning goes away. There's always conditioning, and it's also like a human expression, like a frustration and difficulties in human dynamics, but it's got a different flavor to it.
Right, I feel like I have a hard time even admitting that. So yeah, so it's good that you're pointing it out. But yeah, I mean, I've had plenty of like loving interactions with my mom as well, but
yeah,
you know, there's moments, and I keep it to myself, I guess. That's the thing, you know.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm talking about with like, you know, if I'm making like deep eye contact with someone and like really listening to them and like becoming present, then yeah, maybe sometimes it's just pain body and not presence, but sometimes it also just feels like so intimate. It's like really deeply uncomfortable, you know.
Yeah. The deeply uncomfortable might be the pain body, might be the separation. But yeah, it can be.
Yeah,
it can be so intimate and so out of convention.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it sometimes feels like.
Yeah, and it's totally okay to be that. Like normally, so especially family members, like they'll take you being weird. Like they might be a bit afraid of it at first, but then they'll take it. They'll be like,
Yeah, true. So the pain body, like that dissolving is just a happening, I guess, right? Like you just keep moving.
Yeah. The more it's explored and the more that this is listened to, the more that it's seen that your freedom isn't in time. But it's all that's all happening by itself. Like it's not your doing, because who would do it? But it's happening. You are being dismantled. You're being let go of. The you wants to keep taking control and knowing it's on the right path and doing the right thing.
Right.
But it's happening. Like you think that you want to listen to these talks, but actually the wanting is appearing from no place, and then there's a you saying, I want to listen to these talks. You think you chose to go to America, but that happened, and then the I comes up and tells the story of how you did it. It's yours. There is no doer behind any action. It's all a lie, and that's what the hatred is really, is doership in the manifest. I do, they do. It doesn't even mean, like, if you're free, that you don't say, I can't believe you do that, because that's the way we speak. But it's this energy.
Yeah.
This deep knowing that nobody does anything. And sometimes humans need to be put in their place. Like sometimes arguments is very healthy.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Nice. Yeah, thanks,
you,
Brian.
Lisa.
Yeah, lovely
really
to
nice
speak
to hear
with
your
you.
voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Much love. Bye, Lisa.
Bye. Okay, so maybe that's enough now. So there's lots of people with questions that I haven't responded to. But you can write or call next week, and then I can maybe speak to you then. Yeah, thank you very much for your questions, your interaction, your vulnerability, for the people that called in. I really appreciate it. And I shall see you next Sunday.